Well, the criminal justice system, and I use the word criminal prior to the justice system phrase as an adjective for the justice system. And I'm also going to title this video Fight the Power with Reason, but it's probably going to take more reason than just, rationale debate and all this type of garbage, because there's the financial industry revolved around the prison system, and actually many people that are running the prison system are in fact many of the people running the prison system, I'll get this straight, are in fact criminally insane. They're freaking sadistic, psychotic, and they get off on freaking screwing people up. I'm gonna put this video now. I've never been arrested for anything. I just did 2 level 2 background checks on myself. I have absolutely nothing on me. So, who the hell knows? I'm putting out a video here that's gonna be criticizing the power. So, just want to get that out of the way right now, because I actually just did 2 level 2 background checks on myself, going all the way back. Got a totally clean record all the way in the Marine Corps and all that. But you know what? I'm going to bat for a lot of the people that are incarcerated. I know they got incarcerated for a reason, but what is wrong with this chart? Okay? The prison population is exploding. Why? Because we have prison industries, and we also have the supposed war on drugs. I think this is going to be one of my most important videos, and I'm actually going to harp on this subject more and more. Nobody's taken up for these people, and I'm not taking up for it as a bleeding heart liberal. No way in hell. It's just that there's something grossly unfair going on here, and I'm going to point out to a couple other things. If you don't believe me, just do Google searches on women in prison being prostituted by guards, male rapes, spread of AIDS, which is curable, by the way, effectively curable, very, very cheap. And I know 99% of the time you hear of cures, they're bullshit, but that is actually curable. Also, they have a financial incentive to just kill you in prison and let you die from lack of medical attention. So, understanding the criminal justice system, it's a big pose with it's what it's supposed to be. But just like everything, and I can't criticize the United States all the way here. I'm not going to say that. I mean, for crying out loud, the prison system in North Korea. What are you kidding me? The prison system in the country of Turkey. What's going on with Sharia law? I mean, there's so much freaking injustice and so much going on throughout the world. Prison system in Russia. I'm not going to be saying, oh, America's all bad, but America's getting worse. That's really my point. And there's so much stuff out there to actually rehabilitate people per se. And well, I'm going to point to some really, really cheap, simple things. They won't do it because I'm going to tell you right now, like a lot of times the people that are running the prisons, they are corrupt as all hell. There's been stories about, not a story, but an actual article about in Georgia, the state of Georgia, for instance, the state police and stuff were involved in bringing, I don't know if it was the state police or other police or jailer police or whatever the hell it was, correctional facilities being involved in, but it was the police itself in the state of Georgia. Not all of them, of course. I'm not saying all the police. There's police out there that are freaking fantastic, okay? I'm not saying that, don't think I'm anti-police, but I'm anti-bad people, but the line is not drawn between the blue and other people that are even in jail, I mean, sometimes the people in blue are worse than the people in jail. That's really the reality of it. But there's been like a lot of drugs been given sold to people in prisons through actually the police in the state of Georgia. The reason I'm bringing that up is because that's one place they got caught, and I think it was the FBI or the federal government, some federal authority, charged them on that, and they got in trouble. But it's rampant everywhere. Some of the biggest abuses go on in the states of 2 states that probably have the most freedoms for its citizens, but the least amount of freedoms for those that are incarcerated, which is Texas and Florida. More prison rapes going on there than anything. The war on drugs. Some wars aren't meant to be won because, you know this about Eric Holder and, the drug, the gun running to the Chicago drug cartels, and Eric Holder being as Attorney General. I mean, it's all a farce. Actually, some of the people that are in the highest levels of government should be freaking incarcerated, big time, man. They should be, and like it goes on both political sides of the aisle. Um, Also here, another thing I've had a pet peeve on is I know all the motorcycle clubs, even the 1%, and they got the 1%ers, are not a bunch of saints, and but I know there's also been high profile cases involved in warlocks here in Florida, but by and large, these people are very much targeted. I don't know, it's like sometimes it goes too far, sometimes it doesn't go too far. But by and large, they try to label all these motorcycle clubs even as criminal organizations. They're not necessarily that. There's people in them that are committing crimes, but as an organization, it is actually a club that has a charter that is where it's a voluntary association of members about motorcycles. It's not exactly, but if you really want to apply the same logic that, and I don't want to be too hard on the police here because I think the police aren't screwed up, generally speaking, but if you really want to be applying the same rules to, say, a motorcycle club and saying, oh, you're a criminal organization or you're engaged in conspiracy because you knew about it and you didn't say nothing to it, well, you could do a lot of that even with the police department itself because they confiscate things when they're not, under guise of the law. Police there might be some bad apples. Some people also say the police have a lot of bad apples, which I don't know. I think in large cities it's more like that. But, for instance, if the police say there's some bad apples and other cops don't say nothing about it, well, I guess that's more like a conspiracy. If you know about something or you talk about something, well, you can be charged with conspiracy. They'll do this all the time with motorcycle people, though, right? Say the whole entity is bad. But, the whole thing could actually be applied the other way, except the law has, it's like the casino itself. The casino makes the rules. So the law is not going to freaking make the rules against itself. It's actually going to close ranks. That's one thing that's freaking wrong with this whole bullshit. So I'm going to tell you something. Some of the biggest lawbreakers going was Herbert Walker Bush. He was the guy that was actually on the scene over there in Dealey Plaza when freaking JFK was assassinated. Don't tell me, it's all innocent, right? The war on drugs, it's a bunch of bullshit. As far as, this is another thing I talked about before about the war on drugs. Some of the biggest drug pushers, well, first we also know that, I've never smoked weed or nothing, but, it's like, I got to bring this up. And what's interesting, I have to bring this up as a person that has absolutely a clean record. I don't know. To me, this is dangerous to put this kind of information out. But, for instance, and I've never smoked any weed in my life or anything, but, I don't really see a problem with people smoking weed at all. Weed does not lead to crime. Weed actually leads to excessive use of weed can lead to, lethargy, where you're not ambitious enough, you're not productive enough in society. It doesn't necessarily lead to hard drugs. What leads to hard drugs is actually the prescription of psychotropic medicines, which are being dished out by candy by some of the biggest, what I call, drug dealers in this country, under the guy, which are psychiatrists. They're giving it to babies from 1 to 5 years old, and labeling them that they have ADH or something, ADD or whatever the hell it is, ADHD or whatever. So George Bush, he was involved with men in Arkansas with the drug running. Bill Clinton. Yeah, he didn't smoke weed only. His brother got busted for cocaine. The state police in Arkansas, like the good state police in Arkansas, there's good and bad. They actually had Bill Clinton's brother on camera talking about that. His brother talking about Bill, the president, that he has a nose like a vacuum cleaner. He smokes cocaine like crazy. Bill Clinton pardoned his brother, so his brother got out of jail, right? So what happens? Also associates of Bill Clinton have been known to be giving cocaine to underage girls. They went to prison for that type of stuff, not Bill. Now, about Bill going down to the islands with that guy of whatever that has the island, you hear about the things with the underage woman. These are the criminals. But, everybody sucks up to them, and everybody just obeys the freaking rules. But they bust the rules when they got the power over somebody else. In other words, when the guy above them can freaking give them a little more green or maybe a little more accolades in his on his career or some bullshit like that, they'll suck up to him. But these same people, when they got a little bit of power, they'll freaking slam anybody below them, and that's actually what happens in the criminal justice system. Here you have a picture of Femin, rape me, I'm a slut, right? You know, she's saying that, and it's shown in front of a jail, right? Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. This does go on a lot in the prison system in the United States. The women getting raped by the guards all the time. It's particularly in the states of Texas and Florida. You can Google it. Go ahead and look for research by major media corporations exposing this. It's been going. It's the tip of the iceberg. They all know it, and they don't give a shit. They don't care. I mean, this is what disgusts me the most about supposed Christians. They do nothing about this. They figure, well, if some woman got in jail for freaking smoking weed or something like that, or she was around somebody that had crack cocaine or whatever the hell it is. Well, then she deserves it, and then she deserves to get raped too. There's also male rapes going on left and right, spread of AIDS and all that type of stuff. And it's also being encouraged by the prison system itself. It's a way to psychologically break down people. They're doing this on purpose. And it tells me that many of the people are actually in place that are the guards or the correctional facility guards and all that are psychotically insane. They're freaking criminals themselves. That's what's been going on. Also, prison industries is not all in the entire correctional institute system, whatever we want to call it, but prison industries is actually an integral part of it. As a matter of fact, much of the gear being made for the military, like the Deuce gear, the 782 gear, like the helmets and all that type of stuff, some of the uniforms, are being made by prison industries. It's slave industries. It's a slave system. It's like the Christians are freaking getting all bent out of shape about, we got to stop crime. And let's make them, instead of us paying for their freaking crime, make them freaking work it off. And I'm like saying, what you're doing, you're practicing slavery. Even like the stuff I talked about with, what the hell is it? I think even when they're pushing for gay rights, I don't care what people do. If they're gay, fine. I know there's always been about 1% of the people that are gay, but, actually they're freaking trying to make this the norm, and they're actually trying to make it the norm through the prison system too, by people being forced to be gay. So there's a lot of things like that going on, and it's actually a coercive breakdown of society for control. Now, I don't want to get you all pissed off about this like, say, Alex Jones or Mark Dice, because I know their game. Their game is to actually bring out all this stuff. They make everybody super angry, and then at the end of every video, practically, that AJ puts out, he sells stuff that he's for himself, out of his own little freaking thing. Yeah, fight the New World Order. It's a whole big bunch of game. Now, I do want to say one thing, though, about what can be done for simple things that can be done for rehabilitation. One thing I always said is music heals. And one of the things that you can actually use is like Tibetan healing music, pump it throughout the prison system, or American Indian meditation music. As a matter of fact, it's not something that's girly, or I know because like most people in prison probably are males. I'm not going to want to hear freaking Tiny Tim singing a freaking song over the freaking speakers, but it actually is a male thing, because even all warriors need to have they have to have the facilities to understand fair play and fair justice on their own, because you need to have the facilities to make judgments on your own, and you also have to be connected with nature spiritually. That is beyond what the former religion people do, because I'm kind of disgusted with the former religion people, because they, by and large, are the ones supporting this crap that's going on, all these injustices in the supposed criminal justice system. We need to get back to basics before. So, and a lot of times, I know these American Native Indians weren't all a bunch of saints. I know that for sure, but they did a lot of heinous tortures on some of their victims, depending on who the tribe was. But there's a lot we can learn about other things that help heal the mind and rehabilitate people. That can be done dirt cheap. A lot of it is through this type of music. I know it works fantastic on animals. Don't think it doesn't work well on human beings. It does work well on human beings. That's why there's been a major revival in American Indian meditation music. A lot of people are getting back into it. They're actually They like it. They like it. It makes it likes how it makes them like. It makes it like how they feel. Now, considering a large percentage of the population is black, there is actually more of a connection between that type of American Native um, healing meditation music and, like, say African music. Now, I am not somebody that's going to be like these white liberals that are always saying, putting a black man on a pedestal all the time. I'm just looking at fair play. That's all I'm looking at, period. And I just think that I not only know this, it's not I just think this, I know this. This does have a psychological effect on people to actually cause them to be less aggressive, but not without having any kind of drugs. The other thing is the type of lighting in an area. Blue lights have been noted to be sedating and also causes people to be less depressed and less suicidal. Not that you have blue light all the time in a correctional facility, but it could be good, and also sunlight. Some of these people that are in a correctional facility are actually criminally insane. They're torturing people like the Bundys with solitary. Remember Bundys with the Bundy Ranch that they got taken in for standing up for their rights, basically their constitutional rights and the Bill of Rights. They put them in solitary confinement. Now, I'm showing here looks some pills, but you're probably thinking they're drugs, but they're not drugs. It's actually vitamin C. I know there's been a number of experiments done on prisoners and with giving them vaccinations that actually caused them to have AIDS, for instance. They also even had the syphilis experiment on black World War II veterans that went on for years with the doctors lying. I think for a change, there ought to be other experiments that prove that mega vitamin C therapy works. This has also been known since the 1940s. I went on over this in many videos. Well, you know what? You got a freaking population out there right now that could be experimented on without, this is not a medical drug. This is just a freaking vitamin. It's known to be safe in large quantities. Instead of doing 1,000 milligrams, do 10,000. I could actually do 20 or 30, but we all know that 10,000 milligrams is safe, or maybe a few thousand milligrams of liposomol type, because what's known, like in other words, when you're taking vitamin C, not that much of it actually absorbs into the body unless you're taking a liposomol type. But that would be a good freaking experiment to see how healthy or how much you can reverse medical conditions on prisoners. Now, there's another psychological benefit to this when it's combined with another vitamin, because a lot of these prisoners are on drugs or have been on drugs, and I know they can get drugs in the freaking prison system, but you can get them off these drugs by combining vitamin C with niacin, high doses. As a matter of fact, if you take several thousand milligrams of liposomol vitamin C along with niacin, 3 milligrams of vitamin B3 in divided up doses during a day, or if there's maybe a time release version you can do all at once, that would greatly help with depression, psychoses, mental imbalances, schizophrenia, and also the withdrawal symptoms from drugs, and also curb aggressive behavior. At the same time, you're helping the body to heal, restore. It's an antiviral, it's an antibacterial, it's antimicrobial. It causes the niacin helps the brain function, especially combined with vitamin C. Now, I'm talking about rehabilitation here. I'm not talking about rewarding people for a crime. They're still being held in the facility. Well, why not rehabilitate? What the hell's wrong with the freaking criminal justice system? If the way I'm looking at it is, it actually is a self-perpetuating system whereby criminals that go in there that are not really, they probably didn't get charged with that much of a crime. Many times they're coming out a lot worse. And then if they could be drugged by psychiatrists and dependent upon those drugs, which also can cause more crimes. As a matter of fact, most of the school shootings and mass shootings and stuff that we've had were due to psychotropic drugs, that people that were on psychotropic drugs. They actually cause their brain to be fried. One One of the ways to heal the mind is through vitamins. It's vitamin C is not a vitamin actually, it's a hormone. It's been known that it's been a hormone. It's been mislabeled as a vitamin because that's what it was called when it was first discovered. It's a hormone. Like a goat can produce the animal a goat can produce up to 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C in its body in a day at times, or even more, even 150,000 milligrams. Now they're telling you vitamin C necessity is 60 milligrams a day. And what do they do in prison? They give them none of it, right? It's a cardboard food, right? Even Bloomberg doesn't even wants to save money by not giving prisoners salt or pepper. Like salt and pepper they can just put on their food, which is pennies. Bloomberg, the multi-billionaire, right? He's a piece of scum. Now, as far as these Christians, they live in a dream world. I'm getting sick of these people sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't want to be too critical of them because I think a lot of people in Islamic land are freaking far worse. But, I'm getting sick of all these religious yo-yos left and right because largely religion is just another freaking racket. It's another financial racket with a phony so-and-so out there that's a 501c. And a lot of times they're the ones that are supporting these draconian incarceration rates that's going on in the United States. We used to have far more of a free nation many years ago, or say even in the 50s, than we do today. Today, it's a freaking joke. It's gotten ridiculous. It's gotten to be a big corporation. It's gotten to be a revolving door. It also makes money for the criminal justice system, too. It doesn't just make money for the prison system. And or largely, I could pretty much tell you every single freaking politician we have out there, whether they're most of them, maybe not every single one, whether they're the congressman, a senator, a governor, or whatever, vice president, Biden, another one, they're all criminals pretty much. They all been involved in something. It's all a scam, who you know and what you can get away with. So, I just want to put this out because, some people are going to be thinking I'm some kind of bleeding heart liberal. I'm not that way. I'm more like a fair and justice type guy because I realize that, I realize you're not going to just give somebody who's a hardened criminal some freaking vitamins and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm fine, Now, it's not going to work like that, but it's going to have an influence overall. It's definitely going to have a major influence overall. Now, the fact that many of these prisoners that are in prison, are 60-something% that are in prisoners are drug-related offenses, and some of the biggest drug offenders we got going are Bill Clinton and Herbert Walker Bush, former presidents of the United States. I have to say, the justice system is totally criminal, period. But, I have to also present what the hell's the rehabilitation, because, you probably can't have it as much as Sweden. I've seen, it looks like a vacation deal out there. But the thing is, I'm not saying the United States is as bad as other countries, but the thing is, it's gotten to the point where, we have the know-how to reverse the situation. First off, a lot of drugs ought to be decriminalized. Rockefeller was one of the main ones behind freaking the draconian laws in New York State, and when he was governor, Nelson Rockefeller, about criminalizing marijuana. Even the cops were saying, why the hell is marijuana like on par with, having a freaking murder rap on you or something, a murder charge on you? That's basically, says it's ridiculous. Even the cops were against it. But you know what? The cops didn't like it, but they had to enforce the rule, right? That's why it's generally not even the police that are the main problem. It's like, I know some of the police definitely are screwed up, but, it's all over the place, man. It's not like, there's no like clean dividing line of who the good guys and the bad guys are. That's exactly the way it is. But, probably some of the most nefarious, under the wire, behind the scenes, evil bastards are probably the biggest drug dealers going are the psychiatric profession. And not only the psychiatric profession, but also the medical establishment in itself. With a $1.3 trillion global pharmaceutical industry, one-third of which is psychotropic drugs, which actually create more crime. Those are the legal drugs. They actually have many similarities to the illegal drugs, except they're prescribed by a quack who looks at people and say, you're depressed. You have bipolar disorder. And I know a lot of young women eat up these these ailments like, oh God, I'm like, oh God, woe is me, and look at me, and I got bipolar disorder. And sometimes kids just want Adderall to get high on. So they bullshit the psychiatrist so they get some Adderall, and the psych gets some money off it. In the meantime, that creates more problems in society. You know? So it's not even just illegal drugs, it's the legal drugs. All the drugs are freaking bullshit, except for maybe marijuana. Now, marijuana can also be used medicinally, especially when using the, what do you call it, the oil. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something about marijuana where it's used medicinally, even in the smoke, that works like a miracle. It works like a miracle on Parkinson's patients. People that are so shaking they can't hardly walk or they can't drive a car, they smoke some marijuana, all the shaking's gone. It's gone completely. 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 Totally gone. Some of the worst cases. But it's illegal. Yeah. Tell me who the freaking crooks are. The medical establishment, they're all in freaking bed with each other. The drug industry, everything's about money. So what I say about what's going to happen in the United States? It's going to collapse. I do know that. We're near the end of this bullshit. Sometimes people might say, well, I'm being negative. No, I'm not being negative. It's got to collapse because the criminal justice system is a reflection of what's actually the fair and, the images, fair play and all that kind of shit. Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, it's not really going that way. They're all criminal. The people that are running the show are criminal everywhere across the board, pretty much. Maybe you might say 25% of the corrections officers are criminals still. But the other 75% that know about the 25% are all in collusion with them in a way by not doing nothing about it because that is conspiracy. Most of it is image to the public. And you know what? The public that supports this crap are usually naive Christians that have got their head in the Bible and are just praying and they're tough on crime and they believe the bullshit that are being told to them by these professionals in suits or even in uniforms. Even the war in Afghanistan is just what? To protect the heroin trade? Yeah, give me another. That's what it's going on. It's been going on a long time. Even during the British Empire with the opium trade and the East Indian Company. That was going on back then too. Yeah, and I'm not going to knock the Christians as much as the Muslims because I know, YouTube's going to freaking hate me for this because I know they already got a policy like don't say nothing about against the Muslims. But honestly, the truth is there's a lot of freaking stuff going on in there where you got homosexual rapes going on, except supposedly it's against Sharia law, but it's going on left and right. It's been observed over there, even by forces that went over there to see this shit going on all the time. Muhammad, I know people can read whatever they want into the Quran they want. I know some people are good people and they take out the parts of the Quran that tell them the nice things, and there's other parts that aren't so cool. Largely, it's not cool, but Anyway, it kind of makes me an advocate of the Jews. It does. It does make me an advocate of Jews. I think the Jews are more just. I know people are going to hammer me on using YouTube because now the Jews are like, oh, bad people, and I'm not no shit, but whatever. But you know what? I'm not a Jewish, but I almost kind of consider myself Jewish in spirit in some ways. I'm never going to become a Jew because they'll think I was trying to freaking play games with them or something and become a Jew to discredit them. I would never become a Jew, but I almost consider myself a Jew. And I realize what the Jewish people are really about. It's for justice of the world as true leaders. I know a lot of them are ginos and Jews in name only, but I don't consider myself a gino, okay? I don't consider myself exactly, well, I guess I'm a libertarian, okay? But there's something wrong with this picture. What the hell is this? We're supposed to be the free nation? What is this crap? Incarcerated Americans. I know who's cheering this on. Supposed conservatives. What the hell's that? What are you freaking, offered their heads? That's conservative? It's bullshit. Actually, these freaking psychs ought to be in prison, man. and these presidents, man. Bill Clinton and Herbert Walker Bush. Those are two that belong in prison. Definitely. And if I was ever in jail, I'd like to be in there with Femin. Give me a shell with her. Anyway, just want to put this out because I realize there's other, and I just wanted to also give you some solutions. You know, you might think that's stupid about the vitamins, but vitamin C is a hormone and it works very strongly with niacin to correct depression, problems with withdrawal from drugs, psychosis, schizophrenia. A lot of times these people are committing crimes because they got mental imbalances, but they're not fixed with those psychotropic drugs. They're screwed up worse with those psychotropic drugs. They just make them more dependent. It's a big financial racket. That vitamin C and niacin is dirt cheap. You'll actually have real strong rehabilitation, and also that would also give people hope, because if they don't have hope, they don't give a shit. If somebody's got at least some ray of hope, they might care. And also, I think the sound is cheap. You know, the Indian meditation music. Considering a lot of our population is black, I think a lot of times the Indian meditation music is actually a little similar in some ways to some of the traditional African music. They might appreciate it. I don't know. I mean, it's just something where you got something in the background to help heal the mind and soothe the psychic energies that people have. Because this is what you really want to do. You want to actually rehabilitate people while, and actually when I'm thinking about a lot of this stuff with the prison system, a lot of this crime could be prevented in the first place through these things, because a lot of times what's going on is the criminals are being put in there because, why? Minor drug charges. 2, draconian bullshit laws. Also, altercations that are coming about due to drugs that, or even psychotropic drugs that are freaking being given to people, like antidepressants and stuff, which actually caused all the school shootings practically. So, what the hell's going on? What's going on here? It's like overwhelming, isn't it? But the answer is so freaking simple. I mean, these 3 little things right here: the Indian meditation music, and the liposomol vitamin C with niacin, or actually we'll call it liposomol hormone C. Liposomol will get into the bloodstream much better, and be much more effective than just orally taking. But you know what happened then? People will be rehabilitated. These people here, they're talking like, oh, it's only through Jesus. Oh, yeah, right. You know what? There's going to be a day when a psychiatric profession is going to be used by the government to say, all you people that are Christians have a psychosis and you're going to be medicated. That's what's going to happen. I don't want that to happen. I think you should be able to do what the hell you want. But you know what? You're feeding a system that's actually going to bring your downfall too. How's that? You better freaking wake up. And you know what? If that gets you angry, fine, it gets you angry. I'm tired. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of fed up with it. I'll tell you what. I'm more fed up with the Islamic people and the Muslims. And I really would. I know the Christians aren't as bad as. That's my opinion. But I think the only ones out there that are really. And you know what? I know. George Soros is not a Jew. Don't go freaking tell me about Soros, because I know the guy's an anti-Semite all the way, right? I got my way of thinking. That's just how I think. And I know it's like, I'm not putting this out here just necessarily to be popular. But I got a lot of respect for Jews. All right? And, where I'm coming from is I think this is a great injustice. And we got some simple solutions. And we also got an entrenched profiteer industry within the psych profession, prison industries, the war on drugs itself, which is tied to the mega banks, and also feeding black ops in the military and CIA operations that aren't approved by Congress. And you know what's going on. That's why it's all being perpetuated. Somebody's making money. The criminals are actually largely on the top. And you know what? If you're a policeman or officer or whatever the hell it is, I'm not meaning to offend you, because you damn well know what I'm talking about. There were a lot of bad cops out there. They're not all bad cops, but I mean, and even the bad cops aren't bad all the time. Sometimes they're good and then they're bad and shit, but they do bad. Some good cops do bad things. It's not like, but by and large, there's a lot of corruption in the criminal justice system, and everybody freaking knows it, especially who's in the criminal justice system. So I call it the criminal as adjective of the justice system. And it's being perpetrated against the American people itself. And the chart here proves it. Look at that. It's going hockey stick. It's ridiculous.